Hey everyone, Ready Rex here, and today I'm going to be talking about the Death of Slim Shady, or Coup De Grâce, as it is in parentheses. This is Eminem's new album that just came out today. I hadn't actually heard about it up until now. Like, I knew that there were singles, but I didn't know the album was actually coming out today until literally a few hours ago. So I went straight to listening to the album, and I gotta say, I'm pretty happy with it. I think it's an overall good album. I think there's definitely some highs and lows. And I also think that the concept that he's going for with this concept album likely didn't go as planned, but that's definitely very, very like person to person based. I think other people might feel differently. I don't know. But for me, I don't think his concept went exactly how he was planning, and I'll get to that a little bit later. So for the first third, I think from what, like, Renaissance to Evil, I'm not gonna count the skits and all this. I mean, they're funny and I think they're a nice add-on, but they're not songs, so I'm gonna skip over them. So from Renaissance to Evil, I think all of those songs are pretty good. Habits and Evil, I think, are probably the best from that first bit of the album. Other than that, I don't think there's any that like super stand out. I think they're all, again, pretty good, but not like great. And then we get to, let's say, Lucifer to Houdini. I think that's probably the best part of the album. It's solid track after track after track after track. They're all really, really good. And then we get to another skit, and then Guilty Conscience 2 to Head Honcho. I think both of those songs are pretty all right. I think they're a little bit of a drop off from the previous ones, but they're still like pretty good. I still like them. And then after that, we've got Temporary Bad One. Those ones, I think they're good songs. They just don't quite fit with me as well as a lot of the other ones are, especially Temporary. I think Temporary is a bit too slow. And again, I don't dislike it or anything. I just think it's not as much for me. Like, I definitely like the previous songs more than I like that one. Then we get to Toby. Toby is, I think, one of the better songs on the album. I think Big Sean and Babytron are some of the best features, if not the best features on this album. Which is funny because I'm not even like a huge fan of either. I don't even know if I've ever liked a Babytron song. Not that I've listened to all of them, but I don't think I've ever really been a fan of Babytron. Big Sean, I've heard a couple songs that I've enjoyed, but I'm also not huge on Big Sean either. So that was really surprising, and it was a welcome surprise at that. I thought that song was really good. Then Guess Who's Back skit. That skit was especially, I did like that skit especially. I thought it was funny. And then Somebody Save Me with Jelly Roll. I think the Jelly Roll part was a sample. That song, I think, was pretty similar to Temporary with how I felt about it. I might like it a little more than Temporary, but I think both of them, they're good songs, but I don't like them quite as much. I don't like their vibe as much as I do some of the other songs on this album. And like going back to this like last third of the album, from like Guilty Conscience 2 all the way down to Somebody Save Me, I think that part is my second favorite part of the album. I think the first third is probably the worst, then the last part is second favorite, and then the middle is like the sweet spot. That's like where the album's at its greatest peaks. So you kind of get that bell curve with this album, for me personally. But going on to what I was talking about earlier with this concept and how I think he was planning on it to go. Maybe not, he wasn't necessarily planning on it to go a certain way, but anyways, I'll just get to what I'm thinking. So obviously this album is about Eminem finally killing off Slim Shady, since Slim Shady is notorious for being really offensive and an excuse for Eminem to write heinous lyrics. And there's one line in particular that really stood out to me. It was on the song Bad One, where he says, "The people still seem to think they want the old me till they get him." So what he's trying to say here is, like, everybody's always asking for Slim Shady. Of course, everybody has always kind of begged Eminem to bring Slim Shady back, because that was like his highest period. Like, everybody liked Slim Shady way more than what they liked a lot of the other stuff, especially the newer stuff. So Slim Shady's kind of like this god figure, if you will, of like what Eminem could be, that people have always kind of looked towards and been like, you should be Slim Shady again, you should do this again, you should do this, because it sounded good and everybody liked it. But he's trying to get off this message like, hey, you don't want him. Do you see like how offensive this is? And he made like the most incredibly controversial and offensive lyrics like ever on this album to really show that off. And he's like, okay, you don't want Slim Shady, obviously. When I heard that line, though, I was thinking the Slim Shady songs were the best songs, even with how offensive they were. I think the production is better. I think he raps better. I think the flows are better. I think the Slim Shady part of this album is by far the best part of this album, especially considering I think the middle is when the Slim Shady bits are at an all-time high, and that is the best part of the album. Again, this could be just a me thing, but I really think those songs are just better. Because then when you get to the last third of the album and he's like, okay, I'm old M again, I'm like, this stuff is getting a bit boring. I like was going through it and I'm like, a lot of this is just, it's so much more boring. And like with Toby, like I did say that's one of the better songs in the album. With Big Sean and Babytron though, I think their parts were really good. I think Eminem might have had the worst verse on that song. I've only listened to these once, so that could change. But I think at the moment, I think Big Sean and Babytron both had a better verse than Eminem on that one. And all of his verses throughout these last songs, to me, feel a bit more boring. I don't know, it just feels like he's working too hard to make a point that just doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't work because these songs are worse. Right now, I have a strong feeling Houdini and the songs surrounding that are going to be fan favorites from this one. For good reason, they sound fantastic. And the thing is, I don't think people care as much about how offensive these are. Even like he's doing it on purpose. So like especially people won't care. Because they're like, okay, it's like his alternate ego. He's purposely trying to be offensive to show this juxtaposition between his current self and what his old self was. And be like, hey, you don't want to see him. So people are going to be completely fine with this offensive stuff. Well, not all people, but I think a lot of people will be. Just because obviously it's meant to show off what he used to be like. Like people aren't taking it super seriously. If it sounds good, it sounds good. I mean, me personally, sometimes I delve into the lyrics on songs, but like at the same time, sometimes if they just sound good, they sound good. It's like, I don't really care what they say if they sound good. And I think that's the case with the middle of this album. I think it is just good. It sounds so good. Oh, and I do want to take a second to mention the JID feature on Fuel. I thought that was a really good feature too. I still think the Big Sean Babytron ones might be a little better, but it's definitely another good feature. And really, I think a lot of the features, if not all of them, are good on this album. There's definitely a few that stand out for me. So overall, it's a pretty cool concept album, and I like where he's going with it. I'm curious to see if it's like what he does with his next album. Because this is the Death of Slim Shady, but is he going to revert back to what he was previously, or is he going to try something new? It's hard to say. To me, these last songs felt a bit different from other stuff that I've heard from him more recently. Who knows? He might switch up his style a bit more. Also, really quick, keep in mind, this is a one-time listen for me, as in I just listened to it one time. I'm going to be listening to it more, obviously. So I probably don't completely understand everything he's going for. To me, this is a kind of confusing album to listen to, just because hearing the old bits of like Slim Shady mixed with modern Eminem back and forth through a lot of the songs in this one kind of makes it a little confusing on which character he's trying to play and then what exactly he's trying to get across for a lot of these songs. But I think I got the main gist of it, because it seems like obviously he doesn't want to be as offensive as he was. He does think of it of Slim Shady as an excuse for him to say egregious stuff. I think he's trying to get away from that. Maybe there's a way that he can stick to the Slim Shady type style and production, because I think the style and production of those songs are better, and maybe just avoid offensive shit if he wants to. Either way, I don't think people care that much, to be honest, especially Eminem fans. There's a lot of Eminem fans that are still heavy listening to his older stuff that is incredibly offensive. I think, well, it might be to some people in poor taste. People are going to get over it. I don't think he's going to be losing any fans if he continues saying offensive shit. And again, I'm not saying that I like agree with his offensive shit. I'm just saying I don't think people care. Legitimately, I don't think people care enough to make a big deal about it. But in the end, it's his music. He does what he wants to. But yeah, good album. Anyways, though, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like down below and subscribe. If you have anything to say about the songs, the album, me, whatever, any disagreements, any agreements, make sure to let me know down in the comments below. Thank you so much, and I will see you later. Bye-bye.